Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Warehouse Whiteboard. I'm JJ, glad you're here today, and here's a little review of what we talked about last night in our student ministry. So we talked about this verse right here, John 4:39 to 42, which comes at the end of the story of Jesus interacting with the woman from Samaria at the well. And it tells about how so many people believed after her testimony. And what we did with that last night is we played a little game. We played a little matching game, almost as if we're having a midterm test. It is midterm season, and some of our students are taking the ACT, and so we thought, let's take a test in Warehouse 2. This one was a little bit different. We essentially did a matching test. And what we did is I asked all of our volunteer leaders and myself to read this passage and just mention something that stood out to them, something that they found significant or a question that they had from it, whatever stuck out from their reading of this passage. And then we listed those out on the screen for the students to see. We played a little matching game. We played a little who said what game just to see how the students did with the things that were said and how they could match them up to the different leaders. So I want to share just a couple things that our leaders came up with after reading this quick passage here. Here's just a little excerpt from some of the things that they shared there. There is no person too far gone, too sinful, or too unimportant to receive the gospel. But that's a hopeful message for us, isn't it? One person has a great deal of power to inspire change. And then finally, God doesn't give up on us, even when we might write him off. These are great messages of hope that are shared in this passage here. And then what we did was we gave our students the opportunity to read and ponder and then reflect themselves. And we heard some great things coming back from the students as far as what they were seeing in the passage, things that stood out to them. And so the whole point is that as we look at a passage, much like we're going to look at this eraser right here, if we look at a passage from one angle only, we see it in a limited fashion. But if we're able to ponder that passage from multiple angles, we get a more three-dimensional view of that passage. Just like we do with looking at this eraser from all the different angles, if we can gather a group of people together and look at a passage of Scripture from a lot of different perspectives, we get a really full picture of what might be in that passage. And that was the joy of what we got to do last night together. We got to look at the same passage of Scripture, add everybody's input, and we got just this beautiful full picture of hope in Christ, of the excitement of a changed life that we see in that passage. And then we saw all sorts of different angles that we could apply to our own lives. And so it was a really neat experience of taking a test, which nobody wants to take a test. But this was a chance for us to use that sort of matching game to dive into that different perspectives and how we can grow as we encounter Scripture together. So that's what we talked about last night. And then we also left our students with a dangled carrot, so to speak, a little motivation for next week. And I'll share that here as well. Our students are going to want to be here next Wednesday night. We've got a couple special things happening. There may or may not be cookies involved. But there's another special thing happening that I think they're going to want to be around for that time. So we're looking forward to next week. We're grateful for this week. We're grateful so much for the blessings in Scripture. I mean, what else can we look at that can provide so much richness for our lives, so much direction, and so much hope all in one package? So that's what we did last night in our Warehouse Youth Ministry. We may have also played Stroll the Troll, which is everybody's favorite game, and I may or may not be a tiny bit sore from that game this morning, but that's just the sign of a game well played. So anyway, I hope you've been blessed. I hope you get a chance to review this passage from John as well. See what else is there. There might be some great perspectives that anybody could offer, and I'd love to hear them if you have some. Again, this has been JJ with the Warehouse Whiteboard. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.